Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national. Here's the phone number, 833-4825-337-833-4Valdez. And I know it's tough to believe, but the biggest political comeback in history is just 7 days old. That's right, 7 days ago, Donald Trump, president-elect, the 47th president, El Trumpito, the 45th president of these United States, became the duly elected 47th president of our republic. And he's been super busy announcing nominees to his administration. We announced a ton of them yesterday. But guess what? There's more. Listen to these. I got a report on this one. We'll start off with the report, and then I'll take it from there. Listen to this.
The president-elect is picking up more key members of his new cabinet. Tech mogul Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, and former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, also a businessman, will spearhead the Department of Government Efficiency. This is a new thing that Trump has created. The mission of all this is to cut red tape, reduce wasteful spending, and overhaul federal agencies.
That is from Fox 11 in Los Angeles. And again, today's announcements, in addition to Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk heading up the Department of Government Efficiency, also known as Doge, like the Dogecoin that Elon Musk was famous for talking about. We've got former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe tapped as CIA Director. Fox News host Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. Governor Kristi Noem as Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. That's a real step up. God bless her. And former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee as U.S. Ambassador to Israel. Investor John Paulson did not accept the opportunity to come on board as Treasury Secretary. And somebody sent me a message, and I'm thinking they're pulling my leg, obviously, but it was nice. Asking me if I would serve as a press secretary in the White House. Now, I thought that's funny. I don't think I'm really qualified for that. But I think Alina Habba would be outstanding and nail it. But the question, like the old famous question, if you're asked to serve, yeah, of course, if I'm asked to serve, I'd be happy to serve as long as I can stay on the air, right? I don't want to ever really leave my radio job. I love this job. But it is flattering nonetheless. Like Elon Musk, he's not leaving his job as Elon Musk, right? As the head of Tesla or anything like that. He's not going to be a government employee. He'll sit on a commission as, kind of like a volunteer type of thing. And I've done that. I served after I served in the Christie administration as a, full-time employee. I went on to serve externally as well on the board of Hispanic Research and Development. So anyway, point is, I have some experience with that stuff. And if I can help, I'd love to. But that's not something that's a real thing right now. That was somebody sending me a message, and I thought it was funny. But the fact is that Trump is assembling an amazing team. And the biggest part of this team is you. We the people. It was you, the American public, that rejected the lawfare against Donald Trump, that elected Donald Trump. 75 million people. It's a big number, right? To me, that's the biggest team that Trump has. People say Trump is a one-man show, but the reality is not, right? It's 75 million Americans backing him and this army of very talented people in his administration that he's assembling. And this lawfare that they did against him, it was no joke. But for the American public rejecting that lawfare against him, that that weaponization of our justice system and our legal system against former President Trump, we'd be in a different position today. I think that really started to turn people saying, you know what you're doing here is wrong. And on that front, you've got New York Judge Juan Merchan. He's paused all sentencing in cases against President Trump in light of the Supreme Court's decision on presidential immunity, along with the Department of Justice Office of Legal Counsel's custom and their memo citing how they will not prosecute a sitting president. Now, Merchan says he's going to announce his decision on what he does, whether he vacates the charges or what, or delays them, or the sentencing at least. He says he'll announce that decision on November 19th. So I'll be waiting with bated breath. Now, the left continues to say that Americans of Hispanic descent that voted for Trump, liberty-loving Latino amigos like me and you, those of you that are out there, that love this country, are actually sellouts, racists that romanticize whiteness. Wait till you hear the conversation between Alex Wagner from MSNBC and the author of a book called Defector. We've got a clip from her, and she's invited to come on this program, by the way. Anytime she'd like, we will accommodate that. But it's no wonder to me that these cable news networks aren't doing well, or why Newsmax TV is actually doing so well in the ratings and beating networks like MSNBC, which is plummeting right now in their ratings, and CNN, which just lost their big star, Chris Wallace, who's no longer with them. So to that, I say congratulations to Chris Ruddy, CEO over at Newsmax, on all of the success at Newsmax TV, because it's great to see that happening. And we also have former tenured professor of Princeton University, Dr. Carol Swain. She's going to weigh in on all of this stuff that we're talking about, as well as the Washington Examiner's David Harsanyi. He's going to explain why Democrats have now become the party of conspiracy theories. Can somebody say BlueAnon? This is going to be fun. Plus, we've got all of your calls. We're going to be doing the open phone segment at the end of each hour of the show, so make sure you tune in for that. Don't miss any part of tonight's show, because this, in my opinion, not only is this the best talk show ever, because I'm here, but I do believe this is the best 3 hours in live late-night radio. We don't pre-tape. This is a live show. We're bringing you what's happening in America at night as it's happening. And yeah, on rare occasion, to accommodate, President Trump or something like that, we might pre-tape. But for the most part, we're live. We're live, we're national, and we're taking your calls. And I don't think anybody else is doing that. From one end of the country to the other in this time slot, late at night, I don't think it's happening. And I know we're not late at night everywhere, but where I am here on the East Coast, New York, D.C., this area, we are definitely live. And there aren't a lot of others that are joining us in the live space. Anyway, I want to give you the phone number. 833-482-5337 is the phone number if you want to join us. I'll be taking calls probably around 10:40, 10:45-ish, 10:50-ish. 8334-VALDEZ is the phone number. So keep it locked right here, because we're just getting started. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation, and I want you to hear a clip. Before I bring in our esteemed guest, I want you to hear a clip of Joy Reid. Now, Joy Reid was on television just yesterday, and she had a very staunch warning for women, in particular to white women from black women. Listen to this.
Hey, I just want to give some free advice to the white progressives, particularly white progressive women who may be thinking about marching against the Trump victory, maybe putting back on the P-word hats and doing that thing. I would just say probably don't send any of those invites to any black women you know. I'm just going to tell you right now, they're not coming. I'm pretty sure black women have resigned from the Save America Coalition, Save Democracy Coalition, and definitely the Save the Democratic Party Coalition. I think that's probably not happening. I would just keep those invites maybe among your own friends because I don't think they're coming. But yeah, I think black women are now on the Save Black Women, Prioritize Black Men, and prioritize black communities, black businesses, and that. And, you know, the black spaces, but Save America, Save the Democratic Party. Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
Again, that's Joy Reid. I think she's a little upset about the results of the election, and I love that. Now, forgive my gloating. I want to introduce our guest, Dr. Carol Swain, tenured professor at Vanderbilt and Princeton Universities, emeritus, and she is the author of many books. She's a prolific speaker, and she's with us now. Dr. Carol Swain, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Now, you just heard this clip from Joy Reid. She's telling white progressive women not to put on their P-word hats because black women are not coming. What do you make of all that?
Well, Joy Reid should be among the CNN personalities that get the axe, or she on MSNBC. Wherever she works, she needs to be de-employed.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think this is still part of the fallout, Dr. Carol Swain, that we're seeing from 7 days ago today, Donald Trump making a huge political comeback. And I'm curious to know, there's a lot of speculation out there, and I think some people say it was the economy, some people say it was immigration and crime that was related to that. Others say that it was other factors. Where do you weigh in? Do you think there was one deciding factor, or is it a multitude of factors?
I would say it was a multitude of factors because the progressive left took the country far beyond anything, I believe, that most Americans could imagine, regardless of political party. And so I think they really united the party in that their extremism was so great that it was a bridge too far.
And what do you think was the deciding factor with so many groups? I think other than college-educated white women, I think every demographic group saw an increase and kind of broke for Trump. Do you think it was for everybody was
Well, I mean, some of the things
issue?
I think mattered was the lawfare, that the constant attempts to prevent Donald Trump from running for re-election. I think that people could see that the law was being used against him in a way that was unfair. They saw their fellow citizens being thrown into jail as first-time offenders for pretty much misdemeanors, while hardened criminals were being turned out on the streets. And maybe one of the most decisive factors was the fact that children, young boys and girls, were being mutilated and indoctrinated in schools to question whether or not they were born in the right body. And that could affect, and did affect families regardless of your socioeconomic status. So if Elon Musk's child, gets indoctrinated and his son becomes a girl, I mean, that's someone that he's at the top of the structure as far as status. But for people who have children in public schools and private schools, they were pushing so much change, I think, with the men and women's sports. It was just too many things that I think that most Americans, regardless of political party, felt uncomfortable with. And there was also the fact that there were bald-faced lies being told to Americans that if you were only getting your news from the mainstream media, you would be getting information that was totally distorted, but somehow through all the lies across networks, the American people were able to make up their own minds and to find truth. And I guess we do have social media to thank for that.
You know, I think you're onto something, Dr. Carol Swain, and I don't know, and I'd love to see some like postmortem analysis, like a real survey that would kind of quantify at what you're saying, to really weigh it, right? To see if, you know, which issues was it moms that were fed up with what's happening with their kids and gender ideology, or was it finances and families that can't afford to do what they do with families? But you're right. They have moved the needle further and further and further to the left. I think there was a real attack on faith that we saw that I can't say I've ever seen before in American politics, whether it was a misunderstanding or not. She didn't stop to clarify it, right? When Kamala Harris told somebody who screamed Jesus is Lord, she says, you're at the wrong rally. Whether that was intended for that person or not, again, I didn't hear anybody say otherwise, at least not her. And I think these things really, really hurt the campaign. Do you think the attack on faith, am I putting too much weight on that?
Well, I can tell you that there were lots of Christians across America and probably across the world who were praying, and some of them were fasting about this election. And I see Donald Trump's landslide victory as a miracle because it was exactly what we needed, given the fact that we know that the progressive left, they're already questioning the election, that they would never have accepted if he had not won the popular vote. But we still have a situation where states like California are still counting votes. And I believe the longer it takes them to count votes, the more opportunities to slip in ballots that tend to be Democrat ballots, and that they can steal seats. And that may have happened in Wisconsin, where there was a ballot dump at 4 a.m. in the morning that flipped a seat where the Republican was leading, and a Democrat was able to claim it after the ballot dump, in which 90% of the ballots were for the Democrat.
Yeah. And of course, this is, obviously hotly debated still by many people, but I think more and more people are realizing that, anybody who stayed up and watched how the 2020 election went know that was true. And thankfully, I think we've moved beyond that point in this election. But yeah, I can't wait.
I don't know that we've moved beyond it. It's much more difficult to cheat, but cheating is certainly taking place, or it seems to be. We've caught a lot of it and nipped it in the bud. Machines that were flipping from Trump to Harris. Mm-hmm. And those machines were reported, they were shut down, but there was still some, suspicious activity with ballots, and there are states and House seats where there will be audits at close investigation.
Dr. Carol Swain, stand by right there. The music means I got to take a quick pause, but we're coming right back, folks, with Dr. Carol Swain. You want to definitely check out her website, carolmswain.com. She's coming right back with us. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
In the presidential vote, Donald Trump currently has 50.2% of the vote to Kamala Harris's 40.1% of the vote. But that margin will probably narrow after all the California votes are finally counted. And it is possible that Kamala Harris will end up with only 1% of the vote less than Donald Trump, a 1% gap. Right now, she's at 2% less than Donald Trump. If you hear anyone calling this election a landslide, please stop listening to that person about elections, at least. We have seen landslides in this country, and they don't look like this election.
That is Lawrence O'Donnell from MSNBC, and he seems to have his shorts in a bunch. I want to get some reaction to what he's talking about and continue our conversation with Dr. Carol Swain, Professor Emeritus from Vanderbilt and Princeton Universities and the author of many books, not the least of which is The Adversity of Diversity, Black Eye for America, Countercultural Living, Be the People, and contributor to the 1776 report. We were talking about that just last night. Dr. Carol Swain, when you hear the folks at MSNBC like Lawrence O'Donnell talk about how close the election is, and you've got others saying that it wasn't close at all, what are your thoughts?
Well, again, California is still counting ballots, and I've heard some reports that it could be another week, it could be 2 weeks. It's no telling what could get dumped into the mix, and it is a populous state, so I have no idea what the final tally will be, but I can tell you that Democrats are doing everything in their power to make sure that Trump, he doesn't have the House. And with the popular vote, again, there are going to be audits in Arizona, Wisconsin, probably California. There may be seats in other states. And so we really don't know how much cheating has taken place. But it is the case that if you look at the percentage of the popular vote that Kamala is supposed to have relative to Donald Trump, I think she's up to 71 million. Previously, I think Obama had 69 million. And Trump is at 74 million, almost 75 million.
No question that the Democrats are going to try and outdo the numbers that they've done in the past and try and claim that it wasn't a popular vote win for Trump. I just don't know if it's going to be too little too late at that point.
Well, I mean, it certainly seemed like a landslide blowout election night, and it was exactly what Donald Trump needed. And Democrats, it's no telling what they're doing behind the scenes, because they work together in a way that Republicans don't work together. As we are speaking, we know that Senator Mitch McConnell is planning his leadership vote tomorrow, putting forth candidates that are never Trumpers. And so regardless of, whether it's a landslide and Trump has the House and the Senate, it's going to be difficult to govern because not all Republicans can be trusted, and the Democrats are working, 24/7 to undermine and also to retain power.
Now, Dr. Carol Swain, I want to explore this a little bit with you because I think this is, it's the race now, right? It's the race for the majority leader, and it seems like Trump says he's remaining neutral, but all of his closest allies are all supporting Rick Scott, senator from Florida, for the position. John Thune and John Cornyn, both senators, have been loyal to McConnell in the past, who, in my opinion, is a rhino, to put it mildly. And I don't know what the outcome of tomorrow's, election is going to be. But if you had a guess, how do you think it turns out?
Well, maybe one reason that President Trump is saying he's remaining neutral is that he thinks he's going to lose on that vote. And I know I would like for it to turn out so that Rick Scott, the person he prefers, would be the majority leader. But I know that the Democrats and Mitch McConnell, they work together. And their plan would be to install someone that would thwart much of the Trump agenda, or whatever the deep state or the swamp doesn't like. They would try to slow it down. And I see Mitch McConnell's action as almost like a preemptive coup to sort of slow the momentum of the Trump victory.
Yeah, I don't doubt anything you're saying. I think you're probably spot on with that. My hope is that that's not the case. But of course, I could see that being the case with McConnell being a critic of President Trump's.
Trump wouldn't want to lose on that if he comes out and says, Rick Scott's this is the person I want.
Yeah.
I want everyone, to vote for Rick Scott, and then he loses. That would be a huge embarrassment.
Yeah, and plus it gives the media all this fodder of, he just got here, he's not even sworn in, he's already taking losses. Yeah, you're right. That would be a bad look. And I think the reality is we don't know which way it goes because the Senate has never been the more conservative of the two bodies.
Well, I can tell you that people like Marsha Blackburn, the senator from Tennessee, one of the senators, she apparently is supporting someone other than Rick Scott, and that's a huge disappointment. And Ted Cruz, I think he's not supporting Rick Scott. And so there are a lot of conservatives. I donated to both of those campaigns, and I have not requested my money back just because I haven't had time to follow that process that was outlined. But it's a big disappointment that, given the fact that President Trump had such a decisive win, that conservatives would not be standing together at this moment.
So, given the situation at hand, what's your advice to both President Trump and those undecided or non-committed Republican senators?
Well, I think they should give President Trump the support that he needs to get through the agenda that the American people obviously wanted. They voted for change, and if we have never-Trumpers in office who are there to resist the people's voice, the mandate, I believe, that President Trump was given, that's problematic. And I can remember back to 2018 when President Trump had, the Senate and the House, they got nothing done.
Yeah.
Because
and
of the leadership, because of McCarthy, because of McConnell. And it's poised right now to be similar. I'd like to see Mike Johnson replaced as Speaker of the House, and I would like to see the Senate Majority Leader. I would like to see a conservative Senate Majority Leader.
You have any picks for either one of those?
Well, for the House, it's not Jim Jordan. He seems to be all hat and no cattle. And Rand Paul, I believe, is steady. He gets things done. He would be someone that I would consider trustworthy in the House. And I'm sure there are many others, but he just comes to mind as someone that would be a better choice than a Jim Jordan.
Well, Senator Paul, for the Senate, who would you pick for the House?
That's what I was talking about for the House. Oh, Rand Paul. I'm sorry. For the House, I don't know. I don't think Jim Jordan would be the strongest candidate. And for the Senate, I'm not great at night because I'm not a night person. For the Senate,
it's all good.
Rick Scott or, even there, I think that Ted Cruz would be better than Corinth. But I'm disappointed that Ted Cruz is not supporting Rick Scott. And with Marsha Blackburn, huge disappointment.
Yeah. Well, all of them are frequent on this program. And if I have a chance to have them on anytime soon, I'm going to find out, what the story is, the behind the scenes. Because I'm curious to know myself. Now, Dr. Swain, I wanted to, before I let you go, because I know it's late and I appreciate you sticking around with us to share your wisdom with us about, you have so many books and so many of them are so great. But the subtitle on countercultural living really caught my eye. What Jesus has to say about life, marriage, race, gender, and materialism. And to me, I think this is a necessary book, a book that's important for today's, body politic and for the world at large. But what was the impetus for writing that particular book, which seems to be a little bit outside of the, I guess, the other themes that you have for the rest of your books?
I was approached by a pastor of a church in Nashville who had a series of theological books. and I believe there are 12 books, and I was one of two selected to write for that series. And he said he chose me because he knew that I was a devout believer and that it was a difficult topic, and if anyone could do it, I could do it. And I actually drew on my own life. I did not become a converted Christian until I was in my 40s. And so when I write about abortion, life and abortion, which I have stressed that when we talk about life, we're not just talking about abortion, that we're talking about euthanasia, physician-assisted suicide,
cloning,
human-animal experiment, as well as how we treat the elderly and how we treat people that with Down syndrome. And so it's much bigger than just abortion. But I had an abortion in my 20s, and I share that. And when I talk about marriages, in that book I talked about the biblical position on those issues. And for myself, I'm an expert on divorce, not really on marriage. But then the Bible, God's way, has a prescription for how to have a successful marriage. And so that book was something that was very difficult to write, even though it's a short book. It was very difficult to write. So it has scriptures, and it's written for people that are dealing with these contemporary issues and living in a world where good is called evil and evil is called good.
Outstanding. Dr. Carol Swain, I really appreciate it. Let everybody know the best place for them to follow you and, keep up with the wonderful work you're doing.
I am very active on X, Twitter, and I also have a Facebook page, but Twitter is the platform that I use the most. And my website is bethepeoplenews.com, bethepeoplenews.com.
Well, folks, check her out. Follow her on Twitter, Carol M. Swain, at Carol M. Swain on X, known as Twitter, formerly known as Twitter, and, of course, her website, bethepeoplenews.com. Dr. Carol Swain, you are a gentlewoman, a scholar, and a patriot, and I'm very grateful that you were here tonight. Godspeed.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a great night. And, folks, your calls and more are coming up right now. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Congratulations on just an amazing show. I know you've worked so hard in the industry, and nobody deserves it more than you do. So I'm happy to see you really succeeding here. It's awesome.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, and before we get to the phones, I just wanted to share a couple of clips with you that I think you got to hear. Again, the phone number, 833-4-VALDEZ. The clip that I want to share with you right now is a montage, a little mashup of Democrats on the news trying to explain what exactly went wrong. This was on Meet the Press. Check this out.
I think people never got to know Kamala Harris during the time she was in this campaign.
If the goal is to win elections on Twitter, then you should embrace movements like defund the police. But if the goal is to win elections in the real world, where it matters, then you have to appeal to working class people of color.
The party itself has increasingly become a smarty pants, suburban, college-educated party.
I take issue sometimes with people saying, oh, the quote-unquote left is the reason why this is happening. The ultimate problem is our ability to clearly and forthrightly advocate for an agenda that clearly champions the working class.
Joe Biden's decision to run for president again was a catastrophic mistake.
But we can all unite in knowing that Joe Biden would have lost and deserves a lot of blame for the situation that we're in.
Now, everybody here is blaming somebody else, right? Nobody's taking fault for anything. Yeah, Debbie Dingle in the beginning saying, I think people never got to know Kamala. What a cop-out. Yeah, we got to know her. We didn't like her, and we didn't want her. Then you got Congressman Richie Torres, smartest one of all those clips. This guy says, if the goal is to win elections on Twitter, embrace movements like defund the police. If the goal is to win elections in real life, where it matters, then you have to appeal to working class people of color. I think that makes sense, right? Working class people of color. I think that's important. Not necessarily only the people of color, but I think you have to be able to deal with people that are working. Now, when AOC talks about being a champion for the working class, it's a little different because she's not really talking about the working class, although she says she is. She's not. Oftentimes, their policies favor the unemployed class. But anyway, David Axelrod, he was in there. He said the party has become increasingly a smarty-pants suburban college-educated party. Yeah, that's right. Snooty. AOC saying it's the quote-unquote left, and she takes exception to that. Well, who else can we blame? Wasn't it you that wanted to defund the police? Wasn't it you that wanted to abolish ICE? Yep, that's right. And it was you that got destroyed by Tom Homan when you were trying to destroy ICE. Right? I don't know if you guys remember that clip. It's an old clip. It was floating around Twitter today. Great clip of Tom Homan as a witness in a House hearing, and AOC trying to have a gotcha moment, but it seems like Homan is the one with the gotcha moment. Listen to this.
Mr. Homan, your name is on this. Is this correct?
Yes, I signed that memo.
So you are the author of the family separation policy?
I am not the author of this memo.
You're not the author, but you signed the memo.
Yes, a zero tolerance memo.
So you provided the official recommendation to Secretary Nielsen on for the United States to pursue family separation.
I gave Secretary Nielsen numerous recommendations on how to secure the border and save lives.
But it says here that you gave her numerous options, but the recommendation was option 3, family separation.
What I'm saying, this is not the only paper where we've given the Secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation, of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Holman,
family.
with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay.
She gave up. She couldn't handle it. That is AOC and Tom Homan, our incoming border czar, former ICE head of ICE chief. Anyway, I want to continue on that vein, plus get some of your reaction as well when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
At the end of every segment, we do open phones across America. Paul in Boise, Idaho, KBFI. What say you? Quickly.
Refund the police immediately.
Refund the police. Sounds like an excellent plan, Paul. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Shout out to KBFI in Idaho. Folks, Rich Valdez coming right back with hour number 2. Don't go anywhere. It's America at Night. We've got more to come.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 2 of our Tuesday night program. We're live, we're national, and here's the phone number if you want to join us on open phones across America, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. I'll be taking your calls in the final segment of each hour. So make sure you hold on to that number, 833-4-Valdez. And the race is on for Senate Majority Leader. The three-way race, as we know it, is between John Thune, John Cornyn, and Senator Rick Scott from Florida. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Trump was in Madison Square Garden, and I hung out in this suite there with Senator Tommy Tuberville. Good guy, and I see him on TV right now. And he's putting his support behind Senator Rick Scott, outlining how the other two have been very critical of President Trump in the past and could be rather obstacular if they, in fact, are the top contenders. And our guest earlier, Dr. Carol Swain, also echoed her concerns, and she had plenty about the conservative bona fides of said Senator Thune and Senator Cornyn. So what will happen tomorrow, I don't know, but I believe the vote is in the morning. So sometime before lunchtime, I suspect that we will have the results, right? And we'll know who the new Senate majority leader is going to be. So I'm looking forward to that. And President Trump, again, announcing a bunch around 8 o'clock tonight about announcing something happened earlier in the day, but the one that I saw around 8 o'clock was Pete Hegseth nominated for Secretary of Defense. John Ratcliffe, former congressman and director of national intelligence, chosen for CIA director. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to lead the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Doge, I love that. It's such a troll on his Dogecoin from last year. And what else do we have? Jack Smith, who spent $50 million politically targeting Trump. He's out of the picture. What will Judge Merchan do with the New York case? It remains up in the air until the 19th of November. And you've got groups that are now recruiting for Trump's inauguration. You remember the last Trump inauguration, they were setting cars on fire and whatnot. So my hope is that that'll be under control. And I believe tomorrow, El Trompito de Aldous Magnus, the 45th and 47th president of the United States, is scheduled to have a conversation in the Oval Office with Joe El Baboso Biden. Today, Joe El Baboso Biden met with Kamala Harris, and that had to be an interesting comment. There was a really interesting clip from Peter Doocy. I don't think we have it on our list today, but he had a little back and forth in the White House press conference asking how awkward that was, and I thought, that is the question that's on everyone's mind. What does that meeting look like? All right, just imagine you're Kamala Harris, as I like to call her, Kamala Harris, the vice president who just, lost her election to Donald Trump after ousting Joe El Baboso Biden, who said he wasn't going to run for president more than once, then decided to run again. Then she had to push him out with the help, I'm guessing, of Barack Obama. And now they have to have this meeting today. I wonder how that goes. Does she go in there and go, "We did it, Joe"? Or what's it like? Is it like, like the show Seinfeld? I don't know if you guys remember that. But Newman and Jerry, when they would get in the same room, it was like that, snarling look at each other. And Newman, Jerry, Kamala, Joe. I'm thinking that's kind of how it's going to be, or how it was. And I'm thinking he's probably grinning because he's like, yeah, did you like it when I put on the Trump hat? I'm thinking he's having a good time with that. Clearly, he doesn't do that. And yesterday, you had one of her aides saying, well, if Biden resigns, well, then that's a perfect opportunity for her to become president and at least serve as the first female president. And yeah, if the Democrats were working in concert, maybe that would be the case. But clearly, that's not the case. Why? Because Joe Biden got pushed out, and Joe El Baboso Biden isn't handing over anything to anybody. Why would he? If he was going to do it, he would have done it already. So I don't think that's going to happen. Not going to happen at all. Another thing that I don't think is going to happen, but I could be wrong. I have no inside track on this, and I don't even have a well-formed opinion just yet. But I'm hearing a few things. In addition to Alina Habba becoming press secretary, which I think is a great idea, I'm also hearing that there's a movement to have Trump pardon Hunter Biden as a show of goodwill to put the lawfare behind us, and for Biden to pardon Trump. And I thought, that just sounds bizarre to me. I get the Biden pardoning Trump part. I really do. But why would we pardon Hunter Biden? Didn't he do something wrong? I think that's the issue here. I think the way it was pitched was like, well, to show that there's no ill will and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, I don't know. I think you're going to lose a lot of QAnon people, right? The QAnon people are absolutely foaming at the mouth, waiting for people to be arrested en masse, right? Mass arrests. That's what they're waiting for. And these conspiracy theories, they exist on both sides of the coin. And I know I get in trouble every time I say conspiracy theories. Somebody calls or DMs me or something like that and says, Rich, they're conspiracy facts, right? Everybody is tired of being a conspiracy theorist because they're tired of getting everything right. I get it. Listen, there's a lot of things that were labeled by the left, the fake news media, as conspiracy theories that were in reality the real thing. But the idea that we're dealing with imposters and actors or clones or cyborgs or whatever it is, and Hillary Clinton was secretly killed but and hung. I mean, these are the things that I hear, right? This is some of the crazy talk that's out there. And I would think, what kind of justice is that, where you can commit all the crimes in the world and you'll be killed in secret? You'll be given a full honors funeral, lay in state, all that stuff, just to protect your family name. But we really got you. I mean, come on. That's like literally me coming up with a story to my kid. Well, Santa was here to drop off your gifts, but he had to go back to the North Pole, so he had to use his magic powers. But why didn't he go up to this chimney, Daddy? Oh, well, he did. He just has to render himself invisible so you won't see him, so he doesn't lose his Christmas magic. That's exactly what that is. And so many adults have fallen for this. There's been people, even some that are on this program, saying Trump was president for a while, even while he wasn't president, that the dash on the hat is 45-47 instead of 45-47, and that's a wink and a nod to say that he actually was the 46th president. No, I think it's a wink and a nod of him saying, I should have been because I was elected, but I was robbed. I get that. Anyway, my point is we're going to talk about some conspiracy theories. And I also want to talk a little bit about the Washington Examiner. I believe it was a report in the Examiner that described how much people were paid in the campaign, right? The $1 million they gave to Oprah, apparently $10 million to Beyonce, $5 million to Megan Thee Stallion, $3 million to Lizzo, $1.8 million to Eminem. I wonder how much of that's true. I didn't know you paid for endorsements, and this has been going around since yesterday. But I want to get into that. I'll play a clip from Harris Faulkner on Fox News Channel talking about that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, as well as these conspiracy theories that exist not only on the right, but now they're on the left. And we're going to have a conversation on that straight ahead. So keep it locked. And, of course, your calls and more are coming up just past the bottom of the hour, towards the end of this hour. Open phones across America, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. Rich Valdez live with you till 1 a.m. Eastern time. And I want to just pick this apart a little bit. Yesterday, there was some commentary about a Washington Examiner piece that said that Oprah Winfrey was paid $1 million. And it was reported on the Fox News channel by Harris Faulkner. Listen to this.
I can't get over these numbers. $10 million for Beyonce to step up and back Kamala Harris publicly. $5 million for Megan Thee Stallion. $3 million for Lizzo. $1.8 million for Eminem. I mean, is that normally how it goes? You spend $20 million, you get yourself in debt to try to get a bunch of rich celebrities on stage? I'd never seen that. Maybe I'm ignorant of the fact, but wow.
Now, Oprah says she did not take any money from this. She was tracked down by another News Corp entity, TMZ. And here's what she had to say.
How do you think the election went?
Not talking about the election. Thank you very much.
Oh, is it true that they paid you $1 million for the endorsement for Kamala?
Not true.
Not true, okay.
I was paid nothing, ever.
Not true. I was paid nothing. So is this fake, phony fraud? Is this a conspiracy theory? David Harsanyi from the Washington Examiner is with us. David Harsanyi, can you shed any light on this? What do you know?
Well, I mean, I don't know much other than what I've read from other reporters, but I think that it's clear that she did take money and that that she's being pedantic about it, that it was given to her company, not her personally, but really that's I'd be happy to take $1 million to my my company I own and not myself. I think it would be basically the same thing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And while this probably is not a conspiracy theory, I think there's probably a lot of conspiracy theories out there. And you've got a new book that kind of details some of that. It's called The Rise of BlueAnon, How Democrats Became a Party of Conspiracy Theorists. Tell us about the name BlueAnon, David Harsanyi.
It's a play on QAnon, which is, a right-wing, I call it a right-wing conspiracy theory that a lot of people believe. And let me take that back. Not a lot of people believe it. Some people on the fringe believe it. Some people, I think, probably just play around with it to upset people. And so people on the internet started to call left-wingers who had conspiracy theories, they called them as a group BlueAnon. I just took that name because I thought it was a nice moniker for them that people could understand quite easily when I discuss the problem of paranoia and conspiracy on the left.
Well, let's dig into a little bit of that because I think that's pretty interesting stuff. Because during COVID, anybody who said, the vaccines don't stop transmission right away, you were a right-wing conspiracy theorist. And so many things related to COVID really kind of made people feel like, the conspiracy theories are all becoming true. This stuff ends up all being accurate. The QAnon stuff did not necessarily become true, right? I don't think there are mass arrests or any of that craziness that's involved there. But people took pride in becoming a conspiracy theorist. And I think the news, the reality of the news, the reality of truth has become somewhat questionable in the last couple of years because of so much of the fake news that's out there. So let's talk about some of these BlueAnon left-wing conspiracy theories.
Well, you made a very good point there about how quite often the left will attack people and tell them that they are, spreading a conspiracy theory as a way to protect themselves. It's almost like a conspiracy theory about a conspiracy theory. So when I lay out the history of this in my book, I start with the day that Hillary Clinton many years ago went on the Today Show and called the attacks on her husband or the claim that her husband had an affair with an intern the vast right-wing conspiracy. There was no conspiracy. It was actually quite true. But she wanted to create this idea that there was this shadowy right-wing groups had gotten together and made this stuff up about her husband. Later on, obviously, she would create and help create the Russia collusion hoax, which was the most successful conspiracy theory of all time. It basically shut down the government and enveloped us for years and years, and it turned out to completely be untrue. So you're right. Quite often, people who accuse others of believing conspiracy theories are just doing that to chill speech and to, shut people up. So, you have to keep your mind open. But, as Carl Sagan said, not so open that your brain falls out.
Really well said. Folks, we're talking to David Harsanyi. He's a senior writer at the Washington Examiner, a nationally syndicated columnist, and the author of 4 books. The latest, The Rise of BlueAnon, How the Democrats Became a Party of Conspiracy Theorists. And I want to really dig in because I think, people don't really realize how often this stuff is happening. But this recent poll that just found twice as many Democrats as Republicans believed that the Holocaust is a myth. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, I have a whole chapter on anti-Semitism on the left. Now, obviously, there's anti-Semitism on the right as well. It's usually part of any kind of extreme, fringe philosophy. But the difference is that on the left these days, it's quite normalized. I mean, you see it on college campuses. People marching for pro-Hamas marchers who are driven quite often by conspiracies about Jewish people and the state of Israel, and kind of a paranoid history of the power of Jewish people and the power of things like that. And part of that, of course, is if you don't dislike people and you think they have a lot of power, you're going to believe a lot of nasty things about them, and you're not going to want to believe the bad things that happened to them, like the Holocaust. So you see a lot of that, especially among far leftists and, frankly, certain kind of immigrant groups and in certain places. For instance, in the Middle East, Holocaust denial is widespread in the Islamic world, and it's just a fact. So some of that's been imported here. So yeah, that is what's happening. And I'm not saying, again, it's not just on the left. But on the left is where the squad is. On the left is where the universities are. On the left is where you have pro-Iranian people with, pro-Iranian, not Iranian, pro-Islamic regime Iranian, boosters within the administration. Mm-hmm. So all these things, I think, matter.
100%. Folks, David Harsanyi is the author of the book, The Rise of BlueAnon, How the Democrats Became a Party of Conspiracy Theorists. And we're going to continue our conversation with him straight ahead. Of course, your calls are coming up right after that. You can grab a copy of the book, by the way. It's on Amazon. Again, the title, The Rise of BlueAnon, How the Democrats Became a Party of Conspiracy Theorists. I recommend getting 2 copies, one for yourself and one for a friend or to give away. Just make sure somebody else gets to read this because this sounds like an amazing read. And we're going to take a pause right here, but we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how historically Democrats have been more likely to be truthers on certain topics. Democrats have been accusing Republicans of stealing elections since the time of Reagan and so much more. Plus, your calls are coming up after that in open phones across America. The number for that, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back with David Harsanyi from the Washington Examiner and me, Rich Valdez.
There is more news in your commentary, in your analysis, than there is on the news network.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with David Harsanyi, and I want to direct your attention to probably one of the oldest conspiracy theories that the Democrats started, which is the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. And that was done with the help of Peter Strzok from the FBI. And today, President Trump suggested or nominated announced his choice for CIA director, which is former director of national intelligence, John Ratcliffe. And Ratcliffe, prior to being DNI, was congressman. And I have a clip from the summer of 2018 of Ratcliffe absolutely grilling Peter Strzok about this said conspiracy theory. Listen to this.
The approximately 50,000 text messages that I've seen with your personal beliefs like F Trump, stop Trump, impeach Trump. Go ahead and confirm on the record that none of that occurred on an official FBI device or on official FBI time. Go ahead and do that.
Sir, no, they did. Many of them did.
Oh, they did. Okay, so
50,000, sir.
So really, no, I'll give you a chance at the end. So what you really meant to say was that when you said you never crossed that bright, inviolable line, what you meant to say was, except for 50,000 times, except for hundreds of times a day where I went back and forth, expressing my personal opinions about effing Trump and stopping Trump and impeaching Trump on official FBI phones on official FBI time. Other than that, you never crossed that line. I'm sure there are 13,000 FBI agents out there that are beaming with pride at how clearly you've drawn that line. Agent Strzok, are you starting to understand why some folks out there don't believe a word you say, and why it's especially troubling that you, of all people, are at the center of the 3 highest profile investigations in recent times that involve President Trump, and that you were in charge of an investigation investigating, gathering evidence against Donald Trump, a subject that you hated, that you wanted to F him, to stop him, to impeach him? And do you see why that might call into question everything you've touched on all of those investigations? Chairman, I'm done with this witness, and I yield back.
That, again, is President Trump's CIA director, soon-to-be CIA director, John Ratcliffe, grilling Peter Strzok, a disgraced FBI agent who his girlfriend, Lisa Page, were just being saboteurs to Trump back in 2018. But David Harsanyi, this was a real-life big deal scandal, but in reality it was nothing more than a Democrat conspiracy theory.
Right, and it's actually central to my book in the sense of telling the history of this problem, because it shows you why the left's conspiracy theories are so much more dangerous. Because they take these ideas, and was basically came from the DNC and Hillary Clinton, and it was laundered through the media, which polishes it up and calibrates it to be plausible. Then you take it to institutions and agencies of government that we're supposed to trust, and they move it along again. Then you get experts, supposedly people who, are unbiased and truthful and have expertise and knowledge about something, and then they confirm it because they're partisans as well. So it's this gigantic conspiracy theory, and people think that or some people think that the bigger the conspiracy theory, the easier it is to debunk, but the opposite is true. When you have such a huge conspiracy theory that the President of the United States is actually an asset and was helped by a foreign adversary, it's incredibly difficult to debunk, especially when you have all these institutions and the media and everyone behind it. So the right doesn't have the right has conspiracy theories, but they have nothing like that. And that was the most damaging one because, like I think I mentioned before, it basically destroyed the first 3 years of that presidency. And that's why they did it. And no one paid a price. No one was fired, really, in the media. There was no reckoning for it. People just went on and went to the next thing.
That stuff, honestly, it amazes me. And I think this is why the QAnon people are upset and they want blood, and they want to see people go to jail because you're right. Our conspiracy theories on this side, they're aliens, they're this, they're that. It's nothing major. But the stuff on this side tries to put people in jail. It tries to, pretend things that are not, or are not and are. And it really tries to bend the truth, and there's a serious outcome. When you take a look at the grand totality of this, I guess what's the end all and be all of your book? How do you finish? What's your final recommendation to the reader?
Well, my recommendation is at the end of the book is to say you don't have to be like them to win. I think that people actually want to hear the truth. Listen, we're all, there are many partisans and they want to win in politics. But in the end, most things come to light. There are no really big, giant secret conspiracies. Someone will talk, someone will tell you the truth, or you'll get out the truth. And I think that's why, honestly, is in part why Trump won. I think people lost trust in many institutions, They're angry that there's this swamp in Washington, these bureaucracies that try to control their lives and lie to them. I think COVID was a pivotal moment where, they just shut everything down. They shut down churches. They acted like authoritarians. You told you to shut up about it. They censored you. So people have lost trust in those institutions. And I think in the end, you have to just rebuild them to be better in the long run and hope that it works. I mean, it's definitely a long slog. It won't happen overnight.
Really well put. David Harsanyi, let everybody know how they can follow you and how they, they can get a copy of the book. I don't know if there's a signed version of the book, but give them the whole spiel.
Sure. The book, Rise of BlueAnon, I mean, it's available at all the places that usually sell these sorts of things, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. You can follow me on Twitter mostly. I'm at David Harsanyi, Harsany, and I write predominantly these days for the Washington Examiner, where I'm a senior writer, and you can find me there as well.
Outstanding. Well, David, I appreciate you being here and shedding some light on this. It's a fantastic book. I recommend everybody get 2 copies, one for yourself, one to give away. It's The Rise of BlueAnon, How the Democrats Became a Party of Conspiracy Theorists. Get it at Amazon or wherever you get your books. David Harsanyi, thank you for being here. You're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. And amigos, we come back to your calls and a couple of more crazy clips. There's a lot of crazy stuff out there. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with you all, the American people. The phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Open phones across America in the final segments of each hour of our live program. And we're going to go to Cumberland, Maryland, WCBC, and check in with Frank. Frank, go right ahead.
Your guest is talking about anti-Semitism and conspiracy theories, but the fact is that some of those conspiracy theories are true. And I'm looking at an article that's 12 years old, July 1st, 2012, in the Times of Israel. And it says Jews do control the media. It's written by the Times of Israel. Let's be honest with ourselves here, fellow Jews. We do control the media. We've got so many dudes up in the executive offices at all the big movie production companies, it's almost obscene. Just about every movie or TV show, whether it be Tropic Thunder or Curb Your Enthusiasm, is rife with actors, directors, and writers who are Jewish. Did you know that all major film studios are run by Jews? Well, look, that's not a conspiracy theory. It's the truth, and there's nothing wrong with it. Jews earned it because they produced the goods. Nothing wrong with it. So why call it
Frank,
conspiracy
I
theory?
agree with you. I think, look, and I'll put it this way. It's true that there's a lot of Jews in Hollywood. It's true that there's a lot of Jews in the media. It's true that there's a lot of Jews in banking. I think it's when it gets beyond the statement of fact and it becomes a statement that leads to something anti-Semitic. For example, oftentimes I've heard, all the Jews in banking, they're trying to control the world, and they're trying to do this, and they're trying to do that, and they're doing that because they're secretly a cabal and it just evolves into something else. That is when I think it becomes problematic, just like saying, any other group that dominates a particular industry, African Americans in professional sports, for example, or anything else. Right. There are certain things, I guess, stereotypes that are true, and there's always some sort of truth. I think it becomes out of hand and it becomes conspiratorial when there's an actual theory attached to it where they're conspiring to do something illicit, whomever the group may be. So good point. I agree with your point. And kudos to all the Jews that are doing so well in so many areas and everybody else that's doing well in so many areas, because I love a good success story. Frank in Cumberland, Maryland, WCBC. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Let's see. We continue. Let's go to Neil, Arlington Heights, Illinois. WLS in the building. Go for it.
Thanks, Rich, for taking my call. Second-time caller. I'm suspicious of McConnell's secret vote tomorrow. I don't trust cocaine Mitch McConnell as far as I could throw him. And I think these people work for us. They are supposed to be our servants. They should be on record as to how they voted. There should be no secret ballots here. And in the same way, there's no excuse for late voting a week after the election, and the West Coast states are still counting ballots. The state of Florida has 23 million people, and within 3 hours, they had all their votes counted. And the in-joke is Florida is probably counting their votes for the 50th time by the time these people on the West Coast with their, you can always tell a red state from a blue state and how the corruption level and how their votes are counted and how their people are treated. So that's basically what I had to say. And one other thing, Rich, as far as the Holocaust, my father fought in Patton's Third Army and in the liberation of Europe. In the liberation of Europe. And I believe one of the camps that he was involved in the liberation of, he saw it for himself, was in Czechoslovakia. And they filed the U.S. soldiers in to see for themselves. And my father told me, he said, I saw it for myself. And anybody that tells you that the Holocaust didn't exist is a liar. He said the people were so weak they couldn't even stand up. They were like human skeletons. So that's what I wanted to say.
Neil, thank you for your call. I really appreciate it. Neil on WLS. Listen, and first, I just want to agree with you on both points. I think you're spot on that while we use a secret ballot for the American citizen, we're not elected officials that are being used in a representative republic, right? We elect folks in the House, and back in the days, governors used to appoint senators, but now we elect those senators, and we do that with the express purpose of them representing us as they are our agent in that body. And the secret ballot process, I don't think behooves them the way it behooves us, we the people. We have the right to campaign openly for whoever we want and cast our vote so that there's no retribution on us. But they are elected. There should be a political retribution, right? Not anything physical or anything like that. But if you don't like the way they voted, you should be able to vote against them. And I think there should be transparency in a vote like that. So I'm with you. I think that is one of those Senate rules that doesn't make a lot of sense. And we need to do so many things to kind of get back to what the founders intended. And it starts with, I think, understanding the founders' original intent on so many different issues. And I got into this years ago reading a book by David Barton called Original Intent. And if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have had an interest in Mark Levin's program, who was great at this and still is great at this. They don't call him the great one for nothing. And I think as we learn, it's that knowledge that becomes our power. Neil, again, thank you for your call. I thank your father for his service, a real patriot, and I appreciate it. And I'm going to take a pause right here, coming right back. The rest of your calls and more, don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Keep in mind that Donald Trump's gains among Latinos long predates the 2024 election. He made gains among Latinos in places like the Bronx back in 2020 during the public backlash against defund the police, and he built on those gains decisively in the 2024 election. If you were speaking to the far left, then you could be forgiven for thinking that defund the police is a popular movement in America. But if you're speaking to working class people of color, then you would realize that there was never a mass constituency for a movement like defund the police. And so we should be taking positions that are in line with the majority of Americans. Now, I want to be crystal clear. The majority of Democrats never endorsed a movement like defund the police.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't that largely kind of abandoned by the Democratic Party? I mean, I wonder if that's maybe an unfair criticism on your part, Congressman.
I don't think so, because the far left has a outsized microphone and therefore has an outsized impact in shaping the perception of the Democratic Party.
Richie Torres taking jabs right there at AOC, all out crazy, my least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens, who earlier said that she's mad at fake politicians and she blames this whole thing on, who is she blaming it on? I forget who. We just played that. Let me get that AOC just to refresh everybody's memory. Count. Go right ahead.
I think people never got to know Kamala Harris during the time she was in this campaign.
If the goal is to win elections on Twitter, then you should embrace movements like defund the police. But if the goal is to win elections in the real world, where it matters, then you have to appeal to working class people of color.
The party itself has increasingly become a smarty pants, suburban, college educated party.
I take issue sometimes with people saying, oh, the quote unquote left is the reason why this is happening. The ultimate problem is our ability to clearly and forthrightly advocate for an agenda that clearly champions the working class.
There it is. So she's blaming her ability or our ability to champion an agenda for the working class. In effect, she's saying she's not good at her job, right? That's how I'm taking it. To me, it sounds like she's saying she's not good at her job. She can't do what she's got to do. You know, AOC was elected in 2018, and in that first year, she failed to get a single piece of legislation passed. I want to say I think she might have gotten through the second set of 2 years without doing the same, but she might have done it there. I just remembered at the end of that first term, that was the big news, that there were only 2 Congress people in all of the United States. Of the 535 members of Congress, there were 2, AOC and one other. And good old AOC, all out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, my least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens, unable to get a single piece of legislation passed. And I remember now. And in the second year, she was able to get one in, and it was naming a post office, like a commemorative name, honoring, some former employee or some dignitary that they named the post office after. Yep. True story, folks. Fact check me. Google me. Google it and you'll see. AOC has been running away from the truth for a long time. She ran away from me, as a matter of fact. Many years ago at the Puerto Rican parade, I bumped into her and I said, hey, I'd love to have you on my show. And she looked at me funny and literally ran across the street to say hello to supporters on the other side of Fifth Avenue, because we were both kind of marching in the Puerto Rican Day Parade. Really, really something. I think there's a piece in the New York Post, probably still around, that outlines the whole incident and how that went down. But yep, AOC ran away from me. Anyway, it's part of my resume. My conservative bona fides, I made her run away. Anyway, folks, we're going to come back to your calls and more. We have a lot to discuss. The topic of the Jews. We've got Jim Bohannon. Today's the 2nd anniversary of his passing. We're going to play a couple of Jimbo clips as well. Plus your calls, open phones across America. Don't go anywhere. It's Rich Valdez, and we're coming right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 3 of the program. Happy to be here with you this Monday night. Our telephone number, if you want to join us live, we are national. Here we go, 833-4825-337-8334 Valdez. And of course, in every hour of the program, we do open phones across America now because I want to make sure I hear from the American people, we the people, every single hour. And we're going to do that this hour as well. We're also going to take a little bit of time to reflect on the legend himself, Jim Bohannon. Jimbo passed away 2 years ago today, and I want to honor his legacy with a couple of clips. Jimbo's last guest was me, and that was a real honor for me to be the final guest on his program. And we have a clip of him giving me some advice that I treasure till this day. So we're going to play that. We also have a little surprise offbeat for you a little bit later. And, of course, your calls. We've got calls stacking up right now. New Mexico, Arkansas, North Carolina, Michigan, Vermont, New York, and California seem to be ringing on the lines from what I can tell. And we're going to get to you guys momentarily. But I just wanted to kind of set the stage, a little bit of the news, a little bit of what we talked about tonight. We've got a bunch of new appointments from El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States. President Trump making some announcements today about anticipated appointments and nominations that he has for different positions in his cabinet and his administration. And as was suspected that Elon Musk would be leading the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Turns out I thought his partner was going to be Howard Lutnick from Cantor Fitzgerald, but turns out it's going to be Vivek Ramaswamy. And that's a dynamic duo right there. Again, I would have loved to see Vivek, tear up the media in the press room, or Alina Habba. I think these guys would just really be, rock stars. And I mean, there's so many. Caroline Leavitt was great at that. Caroline Sunshine, also great at that. Just a lot of really, really good people out there. But Defense Secretary to head up the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth from the Fox News Channel. Congratulations to Pete Hegseth. Good guy. John Ratcliffe, chosen for CIA Director, former DNI and former Congressman. Melania Trump declining to meet with Jill Biden or have tea with Jill Biden. Citing her differences over having her home raided. Can't be mad at her for that. And let's see, the left is recruiting people to begin their protests of Trump's inauguration. And Jack Smith has checked out. He says he's out of here. Let's see what Judge Merchan decides to do. So some of what we talked about. We also got some reaction from Dr. Carol Swain about the big race for the Senate tomorrow. You've got this three-way race between Senator John Thune, Senator John Cornyn, and Senator Rick Scott. Trump has remained neutral in this, not endorsing any of those candidates, but Musk coming in heavy for Rick Scott, as well as the great one, Mark Levin, and others from Team Trump that are backing Scott. So we'll see how that goes on. Hopefully it's the most favorable candidate for the administration so that we can get things done and we don't have a opposition within in the Senate. We don't need a bunch of Romneys and McConnells making things difficult. So that's that part of it. We also had some talk about the media, conspiracy theories, and so much more. And, of course, your calls. Now, there's a few clips of audio I really want to share with you before we keep moving. But let me see. Let me refresh my memory. I wrote down number 26 here. Oh, this was an interesting one. Yeah. This is Viktor Orban and von der Leyen, the European Union president. They were at a news conference on Friday, I believe, or was it Thursday? And I meant to play this then, I didn't, but announcing that the European Union is going to buy more liquid natural gas from who? From the United States of America. Why? To avoid potential tariffs from the Trump administration. Listen to this.
FEMA supervisor told their employees to skip houses with yard signs in support of President.
So that's not the one. We're talking about von der Leyen, number 14, news conference. EU will buy more liquid natural gas from America to avoid Trump tariffs. Held over from 11/9. Let me know when you get that one. In the meantime, we have more reaction, right? Because not only is the European Union saying they're going to play ball because they don't want to, get the tariffs knocked out of them, but they, you also have other countries that are kind of seemingly saying, look, we want to play ball. You've got Putin saying that he's going to take this seriously, that if Trump is saying he's signaling an end to the war, that maybe there's some serious negotiations that are going to go on. So it's good to see how, just one little election of Trump has really made so many things change. I think we got that cut queued up. Check this out.
How to negotiate with Trump on trade. Sorry.
Yes. So I think, first of all, engage. Very important. What we have started yesterday. Secondly, discuss about common interests. And there are common interests that we have. So, and then go into negotiations. Common interests are, for example, this is one topic that we touched upon. I would not say discussed, but we touched upon yesterday. It's the whole topic of LNG. We still get a lot of LNG via Russia, from Russia. And why not replace it by American LNG, which is cheaper for us and brings down our energy prices, but it's something where we can get into a discussion, also what our trade deficit is concerned.
Oh, there you have it. That's the president of the European Union, von der Leyen. And again, this is just part of the international reaction to Trump's reelection. So things are looking up, right? We already have a commitment from Europe to stop buying from Russia and start buying from us, or to buy less from Russia and buy more from us. I think that's a great plan. You also have an update from FEMA. I talked about this a couple of nights ago, where FEMA was being accused of not going to the homes of Trump supporters during the time that they were on the ground for these hurricanes that we recently had. And they finally announced that they fired someone with respect to that. We have a report on that. Go right ahead.
FEMA supervisor told their employees to skip houses with yard signs in support of President-elect Donald Trump following Hurricane Milton. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Riley Phillips. That information confirmed to us by FEMA in a statement. We're also learning that supervisor has been fired. In the statement, FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell said this went against the agency's core values and, quote, I want to be clear to all of my employees and the American people. This type of behavior and action will not be tolerated at FEMA, and we will hold people accountable if they violate these standards of conduct. The Office of Special Counsel is now investigating the matter. Meanwhile, Governor Ron DeSantis reacted to the news on social media, calling it targeted discrimination of Floridians who support Trump and the blatant weaponization of government by partisan activists. Also saying he directed the Florida Division of Emergency Management to investigate.
Now, that's FEMA trying to tuck tail and say, oh, we have no idea. We can't believe this supervisor was doing such a thing, targeting the homes of Trump supporters. How dare she do that? But the supervisor's come out. Her name is Marni, M-A-R-N', Washington. And Marni, Washington, I'm going to go with Marni. And she says that she was fired, but she did this because this was the protocol and that this is happening everywhere they go because FEMA has a bad reputation with people that tend to like Trump. And she said, it's a thing. If people that have Trump signs in their front yard, when FEMA rolls up, they treat us very badly. So we avoid those homes for our own safety. Listen to this.
I was notified after I demobbed. The next morning, they told me verbally I was fired, but they never provided me anything in writing stating that I was fired. They all alleged that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. However, if you look at the record, there is what we call a community trend. And unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment. They just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, but you will find avoidance in the Carolinas. Senior leadership will lie to you and tell you that they do not know. But if you ask the DSA crew leads and specialists what they are experiencing in the field, they will tell you. Demand for FEMA to give you those incident reports. They will substantiate what is happening to us in the field.
So is this true? And is this the result of conspiracy theories? Right? I remember a couple of years back, they were saying, oh, if you know, the Democrats are going to put us in FEMA camps. Remember that? Anyway, these theories always go around and around, and I don't know how much truth there is to this stuff, but these are the conflicting stories that we hear. I want to get your thoughts on all of this. Here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Again, we've got calls from Vermont, Michigan, North Carolina, Arkansas, and more, New Mexico, coming your way right now. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
God bless you, because literally I think you represent, the new voice of America. What you say is what people are listening to.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue with our Valdez VIPs that are on hold, patiently waiting. Let me see. Where do we go? I want to go to Ken, Lansing, Michigan, WILS. Ken, I know you have a point about the Trump team, but before you do that, what's your thought on all this FEMA stuff?
Nothing surprises me with the Democrats, Rich. They have got in the gutter doing so many different things. Nothing they do amazes me. It really doesn't. But the thing I want to talk about, Rich, the truth for America tonight is Mr. Rich Valdez. I'm telling you, Jim and Larry, be damn proud of you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
That's the God's honest truth, man. I listen for truth when I listen to the radio, and you are a source of truth that I can depend on, and much appreciated. But how about us, people of lovers of liberty and God? We got what we asked for. We got the man that's going to save our country. How about the cabinet he's putting together, Rich? Elon Musk and Vivek, both. I've heard Vivek talk 4, 5, 6 months ago about what he was going to do as president, how he's going to cut this and cut that. And so so Elon cut half the employees when he went from Twitter to X, right?
Yeah, he went in there. I think he fired 80% of the staff. And he walked in with a sink to send the messages, hey, this thing's going down the drain. It was great. It was really an epic moment.
My point in saying that is he cut all that fat off the hog, and things are still going fine there. These guys are going to be incredible. Robert Kennedy, Tulsi, Mike Huckabee. I mean, the list goes on. Pete Hegseth. It's just a beautiful thing. God saved us, Rich. I firmly believe that. I've got grandkids and children that they've been telling me before the election, Dad, don't get so worked up about this. Please, Dad. I said, I can't hardly take it, you guys. What I've seen my world do in the last 20 years is just beyond, I can't even hardly describe it. And it's not me I'm worried about. My life's almost over. You guys are the ones I'm worried about. It's your life that I worry about.
It's about the kids, about the future. You're right. We've got to leave them something better than we had. And I know I've had a pretty good life. I can only imagine how much better your life was, because it was a better America then. And we've got to give them that better America, or as Trump says, make America great again. Ken in Lansing, Michigan, thanks for your kind words. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. I really do. And let's continue. Let's go to Bill. Bill's in Richmond, Vermont, WVMT. Bill, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez.
Yeah, I want to mention something about Jim, but just following on all the political stuff. Short version is, when the left has 99% control of the media, people get used to getting in their way. People are spoiled. So many politicians, it's human nature. You get into office, you get the best of everything, the best seats, the best tickets. You have power. It could be aphrodisiac, on and on and on. And we don't. Once we get used to things, and you have young Biden there. I mean, Joe, who, by the way, I was listening a few years ago. I was listening to, I believe, Hannity, and somebody reported, might have been one of these FBI people. They said Joe Biden weighed in at a White House meeting, raising the 25th Amendment against Trump. But it goes on and on and on. It's just
it doesn't end.
The key to understand is the projection. Whatever the left says, you can interpret that it's a projection of their true intention, attitudes, goals, dreams for power. Everything they accuse others of, and it's similar to the early Soviet training. But with Jim, just hearing the earlier, I guess David Harsanyi, it brought back years ago. Listening when Jim had Alan Dershowitz on, a guy calls up all hot and bothered about Jews controlling the media and Hollywood and movies. He was, you can picture it. And Dershowitz enlightened all of us. He said, "Hey, they were run out of the film industry. Began with Edison. He hated Jews, so they had to go to the wilderness, and they did okay."
Amen to that. Thank you, Bill in Richmond. And Jimbo was a wealth of information, had some of the best guests in the business. And we're going to hear a little bit more from Jimbo coming up straight ahead. Appreciate it. Shout out to WVMT. Folks, we're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back again. Today, marking the second anniversary of the passing of the late, great Jim Bohannon. Wanted to replay, not all, but a portion of Jimbo's final interview. It happened to be with me, and it was an honor for me to be his final guest. And we were talking about what it takes to do good radio and some advice that he gave to me. And it's always my hope that I live up to the expectation. So many of you offer so many kind words, and I wanted to play this because I know you guys miss him as much as I do. Check this out.
There's an old expression that many people have used. Anybody can do radio. That's an incomplete sentence, actually. The complete sentence is anybody can do radio poorly. Once you get into it, you discover that, in fact, there's a very fine line between sort of bluffing your way through and actually doing a good show. And I'm sure you've discovered that as you plunged into this and discovered that actually sitting there and opening your mouth and saying words in and of itself is not difficult, but doing it in a meaningful way, that's tough.
100%. It's probably one of the hardest endeavors I've ever embarked on in my life. I didn't realize how difficult it would be, or what type of challenges it presents. But again, I look back at the greats, and I've had some wonderful mentors in my career, Mark Levin, and so many others, and Curtis Sliwa, John Batchelor, who's going to be a competitor, but he is a dear friend. And doing your show, I got to study you. I did before when they told me, hey, you're filling in for Bohannon. I said, oh, my gosh, Jimbo. I started listening to, hours and hours and hours of tape to hear your style, your cadence, to just really make sure I kind of delivered the show that the audience was looking for. And I've learned so much from you in such a short time, so I just wanted to thank you for that publicly.
Oh, well, I'm glad that you have. Again, it's an honor to meet someone who has in fact studied me, and who therefore knows all of my flaws and how to avoid them. In any event, I think you'll find it's a fun show. It's a very good audience. They tend to be a knowledgeable audience and articulate, and I think that you will enjoy a chance to interact with these folks. And, of course, the fine affiliate stations. I've developed a bit of a relationship with a few of the stations. I still talk to a few of them once a month on their morning shows and this sort of thing. And, of course, what you do will be up to you. But in terms of just looking out over the talk radio landscape, any people you've considered as kind of role models over the years? You've mentioned a few people, Levin and Batchelor and a few others, but there are many who have had stellar careers. Bob Grant, you mentioned, for example, very well known in New York, not that well known nationwide, but a spectacular old curmudgeon while he was still with us.
Yeah, 100%. And I tend to be, my personality is one that's rather jovial and kind of easygoing. But, when you do talk radio in New York, there's a lot of pushback. Even the people that agree with you, they want to fight you. So you develop a thick skin very, very quickly. And that's part of what I love about the show, is that I really do enjoy a conversation where we can disagree. I enjoy exploring different topics because I'm genuinely, again, I was a barber, so I enjoy different conversation from different places. And what I really love is just old school talk shows on the radio. I've listened to hours upon hours upon hours of the old Larry King radio show, your predecessor. And it's just, to me, it's a real gift that he had, that it was very natural for him to spark up a cigarette and just have a conversation with people, and that was entertaining. But I think so much went into it, and perhaps for him it was second nature. But I look at so much of that, and the way you do it also, I think you make something that's rather challenging, look very effortless, and you make it look easy. And that's the mark of somebody who knows what they're doing. And I look at everybody in that landscape, and I try to learn from them, and I look at how they can weave in from a general interest topic, let's say reacting to a Dear Abby article, to going into what's the latest coming out of the Supreme Court today, to, taking objectionable calls. And balancing it in the best way that I can.
Well, that's the key. I mean, you've certainly found the secret. That's the way you have to go about it to do it effectively. And again, you'll deal with a lot of people out there who are curious. They want to know things. And frankly, you'll be dealing with a number of people who just like to argue. There are any number of people who are just deeply attached to the whole notion of arguing about anything. As I say, they might agree with you, but they'll take the other side just to strike up an argument. And again, a thick skin is helpful. It really is, because you can't take everything that is said personally. Some of it may be meant personally, but you can't take it that way. You've got to sort of march on. And always keep in mind one other thing, and this is, I think, very important, Rich, and that is that the program is for the listeners. And probably no more than 1% of the listeners will ever actually call in. And that's what you have to keep in mind. For you are here, you are handling a program for Westwood One for the listeners. And certainly we have a great respect and admiration and affection for our callers. But the program is not for the callers as such. It is for the listeners. And that's always got to be your guiding outline of how to approach the program. What would the listeners like to hear?
Agreed. I agree. And I've always been that guy. As much as I like to talk on the air, I've never been a talk radio caller. It never struck me that way. I always enjoyed listening to the conversation, and I agree with you. There are so many people out there that are listening, and they'll never call. And sometimes I encounter them, having been Mr. Call Screener for many years now. I've spoken to people that said, hey, you know what, I've listened to this show for years. I've never called, but this topic or this comment or whatever it was, really sparked my my interest in calling in. And it just reiterates exactly what you said, that there's so many people listening and very few actually call. And it's truly about the larger audience, and not me and not just the callers, but everybody.
Yeah, it really is, and that's the secret. You've got that down, and the rest of it will not be, I will not say easy, but the rest of it will be, in fact, a lot easier than it would have been otherwise. How do you envision the program once you're on Monday for good?
Well, I'm going to put my best foot forward, and thankfully I've had the opportunity and the privilege to have filled in over the summer, and I got to know some of the regular callers and have a feeling for the Jim Bohannon show. And as we move into this new direction, I don't think it's going to be that new or that different. It might be a different voice, but I think the principles that you've laid out in this show are the right ones to have a principled conversation, and whether my views may be more conservative than others, and we may have debate, but ultimately, like you said, this is about the listeners, and I want to give them the best stimulating talk, the best conversation that we could possibly give them, so that they really enjoy the program and get something out of it.
All right. Rich Valdez, who again will be the host of this program as of Monday night, October the 17th, and he'll do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is the late, great Jim Bohannon, a real legend in my eyes. Let's go to Jeff, Lansing, Michigan, WILS. Jeff, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, that's Valdez with an S, if I'm not mistaken.
You betcha.
That is. We've spoken many times. You know what? I feel like I owe you an apology, because when you first took over for this show, I had no idea who you were. I had no idea. And I'm an ex-radio guy, so I kind of listen a little bit differently, I think, than most people. But you had taken the show to a level that I didn't expect to see, and I don't, for some reason, I think that I owe you an apology for not giving you the credit that you deserve, because you're doing a fantastic job every night, and you just never stop. You just keep going and going, and I think you've done a Jim Bohannon a great service, and I think you're doing a great service to the rest of us that just listen to the show.
Well, Jeff, that's really kind of you, brother. I appreciate it. Very big of you. It's the measure of a man, right? To say something that truthful. So not that I'm great, but to admit that you owe me an apology, and I don't think you do. I think it's okay to be discriminating when you're a fan of a show for 30 years and it changes. So thank you for giving me the opportunity, and thanks for the call tonight. I appreciate it, folks. We're coming right back. The rest of your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Mr. Trump has nominated Fox News host Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defence in the upcoming administration. Mr. Hegseth is an Army National Guard veteran. He served in Afghanistan, Iraq and Guantanamo Bay. The president-elect released a statement saying, with Pete at the helm, America's enemies are on notice. Our military will be great again and America will never back down.
That is a report from Sky News on the appointment of Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense, and some reaction on that from you all in the speed round here. Let's go to Bill, Jefferson City, Missouri, KTTR. Bill, go for it.
Rich, how cool is it that this Mr. Hegseth is nominated to be the future Secretary of Defense?
I think you inspired President Trump. He listens to the program. He's got people that listen to the program. I think he heard you when you made that comment. And look, here we are.
That just blew me away because, the general that I listened to on what is it, the 11th, was right on. He said, read this book. Nobody in the audience knew who it was, except maybe some of the American Legion people. But anyway, it was great. That's my thought for the evening.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, brother. God bless you. Let us continue. Let's go to Danbury, Connecticut, WLAD. James, go for it.
How you doing, Rich? Great show.
Thank you.
You and Jim Bohannon both are kind of the same. That you could always agree, you could not agree. I could agree with you, you could not agree. That's the beauty of this country. But one thing I think Jim Bohannon would agree on, and you will agree on, is that women should not be in power, should not be able to run for president, because how is a woman, especially Kamala, going to deal with the likes of those dregs of humanity like Putin, Xi? I just don't see it happening.
Well, I'll tell you what, James. You know what? I don't agree, but I'll tell you why. I didn't like Hillary Clinton's politics, but I think Hillary Clinton was a serious person for the most part. I could see her sitting across from Putin. She did as Secretary of State, right? Whether she made the right deal or the wrong deal is a different story. But she was taken seriously, I believe, by world leaders, despite the fact that she was a woman. And in some parts of the world, they don't take women seriously the way we do in the United States. So I understand your point. I think in particular, Kamala Harris, not because she's a woman, because she's a clown, she wouldn't be taken seriously. And I think that's the key difference between them. I also think Tulsi Gabbard one day in the future, adding more to her resume, being more involved, I think people would respect her too, because she's an intelligent woman and she's got a lot of really interesting things to say. James, thanks for the call, brother. WLAD in the building. Let's go to Larry, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, WRNN. Larry, go for it.
Yeah, I was thinking about the similarities to Teddy Roosevelt and President Trump. They both got shot, and they spoke to the public afterwards.
Yeah.
But Trump's speech was very short. It was fight, fight, fight.
And man, did it echo around the world, right, Larry? People heard it all over the place. They made it happen. They handed him this mandate and this, in my opinion, incredible election, the trifecta, the House, the Senate, the White House. From here on in, all we got to do is win this thing tomorrow, where Trump can have somebody that's amenable to the agenda that he's putting forward in the Senate as majority leader that could really help him put it through. And that's my hope that that'll happen tomorrow, but we'll see how it plays out. Larry in Myrtle Beach, WRNN. Thank you, sir. John, driving near Bowie, Arizona, listening online. Shout out to our friends at KFNX. John, go right ahead.
Hey, good evening, Rich. And I guess this is my first and a half call to your show.
Nice.
Last Friday was dismal. It was as though it was my first phone call to anyone for any reason. I didn't realize we were up against the hard,
gotcha.
hard break. So I wanted.
Well, tell us what's on your mind tonight, John.
I came up with a new word for you in the wake of the presidential election and campaigns. Timpons. Timpons.
Timpons. So we can call him Timpon Tim. That's actually very funny to me. Oh, man, John, excellent job. Tim Pons. And I appreciate the call. I hope you'll call back again. Shout out to all of our friends in Arizona, especially everybody listening on KFNX. John in near Bowie, Arizona. Thanks, brother. Have a safe ride. I know you're on the road today. And let's keep going. Let's go to Joe. Joe's calling us from Salem, Arkansas. Joe, go right ahead quickly. KSAR.
Yes, several things here, Rich. Number one, kudos to Melania for not going to the other side to have tea. She stands by her man. That's great. Number two, I never heard you interviewed before. That was excellent. That was a good interview. And,
oh, come on. Who was doing the interview, right? Jim Bohannon's top dog when it comes to interviewing.
I know, but I never heard your side in an interview, and I thought that was pretty good.
Thank you.
Number three, this hypothetical about, I don't know where that came from, of Biden making her president for the next 10 weeks, by making a deal.
Oh, that was
with
the
her.
guy on CNN. He started talking out of pocket saying, as if they owed her something as a consolation prize, a participation trophy. Unbelievable, Joe. I got to take a pause here, but thanks, brother, for the call. Shout out to KSAR. Rich Valdez coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Jimbo was an amazing storyteller, and on this second anniversary of his passing, I wanted to share one of those great stories in this offbeat.
War is certainly not funny, but funny things do happen in war. My time in Vietnam, while painful and scary, provided a chuckle now and then. A couple of them were at our 199th Light Infantry Brigade base camp at the little fishing village of Cat Lai, south of Saigon, 54 years ago in 1967. Somebody decided to put our top-secret enclosure right next to the rice paddy that served as a helipad. Huey choppers came and went all day, making our operations tent flap, but then one day the whole side of the tent lifted up and was torn loose. A big Chinook helicopter had landed and sent top-secret papers blowing everywhere. The captain ordered us to drop everything and get those documents. We stormed into Cat Lai, grabbing top-secret papers from Mama San's, wrapping fish in them. Another time, a commotion began near our tents, and we ran over wondering if it was a fight. It was a fight, okay, but between one of our medics and a cobra. This crazy medic was shadowboxing this beast. I was amazed at how slow the cobra was, not nearly as quick as a rattlesnake, but quick enough to make me wonder just what that medic thought he was doing. That finally became clear as he managed to grab the snake just behind the head. As it thrashed about, two other medics grabbed the rest of the cobra, and the three of them managed to get its head inside a bucket of alcohol, which these clowns had come up with. After maybe 10 minutes or so, the snake finally succumbed and wound up in a huge multi-gallon bottle, all curled up. If you were sick and went to see the medics, that curled-up cobra was just the thing to make you feel all better, or a whole lot sicker. Oh, and the grass around our tents? Well, we just let it grow. What the heck? We weren't trying to make the cover of Better Homes and Gardens. But after the cobra encounter, we tackled that grass with a vengeance and turned it into a virtual putting green, lest some of the cobra's buddies come sneaking up on us. The Offbeat. I'm Jim Bohannon.
Amen. That was amazing. Shout out to William in Morehead City on WTKF. And take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.